Gillian, what do you think? Should our bonuses be tied to how often we show up in the office?
Short answer, no. I think I think the longer answer in my view is there's nothing wrong with wanting people to be in the office a bit more frequently. And if you want to look for some ways to encourage that, then maybe pay is one instrument. But I think if the end in itself is just getting people back into the office, then we're kind of missing the point. I think what people are looking for when they come to the office is that they're coming there to do the right work and get the right needs met, whether that's, the sense of belonging with their team or contributing to the work in a broader way or acquiring new knowledge about what's going on in the broader workforce to kind of break down some of those silos. So I
Mm.
think if we focus more on those things, then people are going to feel rewarded more intrinsically when they come into the office rather than this extrinsic, oh, well, I better show up because I want my bonus. Yeah. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. It's on our minds because a number of companies are starting to do this and have been for a little while. But ANZ Bank in Australia and New Zealand has recently come out and said that they want people in the office 50% of the time, and you need to come at least 40%. Otherwise, it's going to affect your bonus. So it's something lots of organizations are doing. And look, I think first thing I'd say is asking people to come in 40 or 50% is a lot different to asking people to come in 100% of the time, because we know that there's a lot of downsides to full return to office mandates 100% of the time, from, not being able to attract and retain the best and most diverse staff, or even losing those staff when you put in the mandate. There's no positive impact on productivity. 40% or 50% is a little different because we know that research shows for most people, 2 to 3 days in the office is actually what they want. But having said that, totally agree with your point that we want to make the office a place people want to come for the right reasons, because
Yeah,
they're doing interesting work with their colleagues or collaborating in the right way, rather than force them to do it. So, yeah,
exactly,
interesting.
exactly. I think that's really, I completely agree. And I think your point about the return to office mandates, if it's a proportionate mandate to return that's 40 to 50% rather than 100, I agree. That makes a massive difference. So you're not just driving high staff turnover and people just start quitting and going looking elsewhere. There's also a secondary concern I've got though around any mandate, any kind of blunt instrument around these
Mm,
rules, and that's the diversity and inclusion aspect that you
yeah.
touched on. That mandate for some people was real easy. It's no skin off their nose. They're going to be fine to do it. They're probably already doing it. But there'll be other people who are often the same people who are disproportionately affected by things, like trying to get into the office and a regular timing, whether they've got caring responsibilities or managing their own health issues or anything like that. It's always those same people that then have an additional barrier
Yeah.
to, like, oh, now I have to go through some kind of exceptions framework to have the kind of permission to be at home a bit more often, or to not be in quite as often as some of my colleagues. Maybe I'm there 25% of the time, for example. And I just
Mm.
think we've got to be really careful that we're not accidentally making life extra hard for the people that are already disadvantaged. So I think that's something else to consider when you're thinking about mandates.
Absolutely. And I think anyone who falls in that bucket, or just people more broadly who don't see the benefit in coming in that 40 or 50%, or just don't want to, they're going to then start weighing, well, okay, I might lose my bonus, but that's X amount of dollars. But on the other hand, it would cost me this for commuting. It would cost me this for after school care. It would cost me this to buy my lunch in the office. And what they might find is that actually that's a kind of a trade-off that they're happy to make. So I think these
Yeah.
blunt instrument mandates, it's not the right tool. You want to incentivize people to want to come in and show them how it helps them be more productive and more collaborative, rather than force them to
Yeah.
come in. Yeah.
I think that's a really important framing. Like if we make it a transaction, people will treat it as a transaction
Yeah.
rather than, if we treat it as an intrinsic motivator, people will respond with that in mind. So I think that's a really good point, that we've got to make sure we're giving people the environment and the setup that they need to make office life more productive and more, um, you know, something they want to partake in. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in summary, 40% is much better than 100% mandate. And for a reasonable number of people, they'll be okay with it. But really, what we want to be doing instead of mandates is making it exciting and interesting and unmissable to come into the office rather than telling people they must do it.